Welcome back to the FTN NFL Draft Team Preview Series. I'm your host, Mike Randle, Chief Content Officer here at FTN. Follow me on X at Randle Rand, and today we head to Cincinnati. A lot of weapons, a lot of power. Always one of the teams that's a threat to go to the Super Bowl, and we bring in the only person that I talk to about the Bengals, the great Jay Morrison. Follow him on X at @ByJayMorrison. He's the Bengals beat writer for Pro Football Network. He gives us great information. He's fantastic each of the last few years, giving us a couple nuggets here as he's super busy. And we're about 3 weeks out from the NFL draft. Jay, great to have you as always. We're going to kick it off here. What do you think is the focus for the first pick? I can give you my thoughts after, but what are you hearing position-wise, player-wise for that first-round pick, which we are pretty much exactly 3 weeks away from hearing?
Yeah, if I'm going to put a percentage on it, I'd say 80% chance they go offensive tackle there. They signed Trent Brown in free agency, but he's only played 38 games the last 4 years. He's over 30. There's injury questions there, and he's here for 1 year. They still need a long-term answer at right tackle after Jonah Williams left to go to Arizona. I just think it makes all the sense in the world when you look at you marry need with availability. This is a great class for tackles, and if something crazy happens and 5 or 6 go off the board before they pick at 18, maybe they pivot. But I think one of those tackles is going to be the direction they go at 18. And if it's not an offensive tackle, perhaps a defensive tackle.
Yeah, I have to bring up Brock Bowers because I guess it's always hard, Jay. We try to do these mock drafts and we predict what the general managers and the teams are going to think, not what we think. I would assume there's some apprehension about taking a tight end so early in the draft. Just my feeling here. So I'm curious, do you think Bowers could possibly drop to pick 18? And if by chance he does that change your thinking on how the Bengals are going to go with that first pick?
I don't think he'll drop to 18. I wouldn't rule it out. If he's there, I don't see the Bengals taking him.
Okay.
I think everybody thinks this guy's going to be a great player in the NFL, but the Bengals have made it obvious that they just don't view tight end as a premium position. Since they took Drew Sample in the second round in 2019, there have been 71 tight ends drafted, none by the Bengals. All the other 31 other teams have drafted tight ends. 23 have drafted multiple tight ends. The Bengals are content to go out and sign a Mike Gesicki, a Hayden Hurst, guys like that, 1 year stopgaps. I do think they'll address the position in the middle rounds and hope that guy develops into a long-term answer for them at the position. I don't see them going out and getting a Bowers as terrific as I think he's going to be.
Yeah, we talked last year. You gave me the great line, which I stole throughout the year. Joe Burrow gets his tight ends paid, which was fantastic, and he certainly does. Let's turn to offense now. Obviously, questions in the backfield, made some moves there. Wide receiver, talk about how you see one of the best offenses in the NFL shaping up. What do you think they can add? Maybe a couple more free agents, or they're going to address it in the draft here, sort of bolster the offensive weapons for Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I know a lot of people talk about the T. Higgins trade because he's requested one, but Jonah Williams requested a trade last year. They said, we hear you, but we're not going to do anything about it. Expect that to be the same with T. Higgins this year. I just don't know that a team's going to come up with a package good enough to entice the Bengals to pull the trigger. They did say they'd listen to offers. This is a great wide receiver class. I don't think teams are going to, make a huge offer when they know they can get a younger guy in the draft. So I fully expect it to be Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, around Joe Burrow as his main targets, and then I'd be stunned if they don't draft another wide receiver in the day 1 or day 2. T. Higgins isn't going to be here beyond this year. You need to start replenishing that position. They brought back Trent Irwin. They had a couple draft picks last year, guys they're hoping will develop, but you want that big name guy that can kind of carry on for the next 4 years, play opposite Jamar Chase. So I expect that to be a major point of emphasis for them in this draft, even though a lot of people you see Higgins and Chase and feel like this team is set. I don't think that's the case. I like I said, I would be stunned if they don't draft a wide receiver before they get to Saturday.
Yeah, it's very fair, Jay. And one of the most reliable positions that us in fantasy football enjoyed was the Bengals running back with Joe Mixon. He just was able to have things out of the backfield. He was able to get the goal line touches. Very reliable option in terms of volume. Now, Zach Moss, Chase Brown still there. How do you see the running back workload? Is it Zach Moss unless it goes wrong? Do you see it as a 50-50? What's your projection early on, obviously, for how the backfield is going to look for the Bengals?
Yeah, right now I think they would lean a little more on Chase Brown, but I could see this being a ride the hot hand kind of thing, and not just from game to game, but from half to half. However a game is playing out. But close to 50-50, but maybe 55-45, maybe 60-40. Zach Moss is going to play a role in this offense, and Chase Brown. I mean, they are high on him, and he gives them that speed element to the explosive game. Zach Moss gets explosive runs because he breaks tackles. Chase Brown just runs away from guys. So I think they're going to lean into that, but we didn't see a lot of him last year. Just when they were getting ready to incorporate him into the offense, he had an injury, went on IR. So it was late in the year before they really unveiled him, and he took off. He had some great plays and really made a difference, and was a big reason that they were ready to move on from Joe Mixon, who was no longer explosive. So it's a good question on how that's going to play out. I would maybe handcuff him if you're talking in the fantasy realm, because I do think both of those guys are going to see a lot of touches, both in terms of carries and passes out of the backfield.
Jay, great stuff as always. Last question, then we'll get you out of here. Toughest division in football. I mean, just elite teams, always a threat to make the Super Bowl up and down the board. Bengals have an elite offense. Questions now on defense. Last year, they started defensive end and 2 cornerbacks. Talk to me about what you think the defense is going to look like and where they can go. Do you think, obviously, offensive tackle we mentioned, do you think it will be more of an offensive draft for the picks they have this year? Do you think they'll supplement? What's the focus on the defensive side of the ball, which obviously is critical? We're talking about the AFC North, Steelers, Ravens, etc.
Yeah, their last 7 premium draft picks, so rounds 1, 2, and 3, have all been defensive guys. They know the Jamar Chase train is coming with that contract. They've already paid Burrow. That they need to replenish that defensive side of the ball over and over again with high picks, guys that can fill in. I think we see a little bit more of a split. Like I said, it could be offensive tackle, wide receiver, the first 2 picks off the bat this year. What they do defensively, I still don't know, and I don't know if they know, because they went out and signed Geno Stone and Von Bell as safeties. That would indicate Dax Hill, the first-round pick a couple years ago, is going to move to cornerback. They still have Jordan Battle, who was probably their best rookie last year as a safety. So they've got all these pieces back there on the back end, and you just don't really know where they're going to slot in, and I'm not sure they do. They said they want to see Dax Hill do one thing well. Then a couple weeks later, they say they love his versatility and how they can move him all around. So it's going to play out this spring. It's going to play out in training camp. I still think they maybe draft another cornerback, because Mike Hilton, the slot corner, is going to be gone after this year. A lot of different directions they can go on that back end, which suits Lou Anarumo just fine. He's a master of the chess piece and moving guys around, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do back there.
Only direction I go when I need Bengals information is to the great Jay Morrison on X at by Jay Morrison, beat writer, Pro Football Network, does so many great things. Jay, would love to get you one more time as we get closer. You know me, I'm in mock draft hell right now, trying to figure out, trying to get those bets, things like that. But we appreciate a few minutes. You're so generous with your time and always give us great information. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.